同学们大家好，我们继续讲圣经啊。那么我们现在开始讲这个15啊。Realizing that their father was dead, Joseph's brothers said, "What if Joseph still bears a grudge against us and pays us back in full for all the wrong that we did to him?" 啊，那么这句不用翻了。他说，现在我们的父亲死啊，那他那个我们哥哥要报复怎么办啊？对不对？So they approached Joseph，所以呢，他们呢，approach 这个 approach，它这里有一个那个有一个注解 approach 啊，Hebrew they commanded 啊，commanded they commanded，那么commanded 就是应该说是有一种那个我们不查了，这个是他那个希伯来语是 commanded 的，关于 commanded 的我也不解释了。因为 command 的这个是很难解释啊，command 的这个是非常的难解释，英文里面大家自己去查啊。大概的意思呢，就是他们去那个他们去这个里的 command 不是命令的意思啊，他们去我不查了，我现在也一时说不清楚啊，同学们自己查，command 的自己查。好，那么就是 they approached Joseph 啊，他们就跟 Joseph saying 啊，就说了，说什么 Your father gave this instruction before we died，你的父亲啊，在他死之前给了这个 instruction 啊，say to Joseph 啊，然后什么 instruction？他用了一个引号啊，里面是引号，say to Joseph 啊。I beg you, forgive the crime of your brothers and the wrong they did in harming you 啊。那么这个是他父亲说的，对不对？Now，那么他们说了，Now therefore, please forgive the crime of the servants of the God of your father 啊。那么就是要原谅他们啊。那么 Joseph 怎么样？Joseph 哭了啊，他就哭了。When they spoke to him 啊，then his brothers also 啊，他们的兄弟啊也哭了。那么这个是。C 是什么 ？Also came 啊，他说这个希伯来语 also came 啊，他也哭了啊，然后是 fell down before him，fell down 就跪下来了，可能是是不是啊？下跪了啊？And said 磕头了啊，and said we are here as your slave，我们呢做你的奴隶啊，我们是你的奴隶啊，我们是你的奴隶。好，然后呢 ，But Joseph said to 什么？Do not be 啊，你们不要害怕。Am I in the place of God？啊，难道我是上帝吗？对不对？这even though you intended to do harm to me 啊，God intended it for good God intended it for good in order to preserve numerous people as he is doing today So have no fear 不要害怕I myself will provide for you and your little ones 我会那个 provide you in this way. He reassured them speaking kindly to them 那么这一段也没什么，应该大家都明白啊。那么好，我们看一下这里注解15到21，那么是18到21。那么18到21一个注解，对不对？15到16，15到16有一个，15到16，他这个东西没法害来的。15到16一个 ，in fear now that their father is dead. Joseph's brothers attempt to protect themselves by making up a report that protect them by making up a report that Jacob had ordered Joseph to forgive them. 对于嘛，他们这个是他们造出来的，捏造的，他们几个兄弟明白吗？这个是这个说的他那个他父亲临终前对他们兄弟们说的这个话。让他们让邱师傅原谅他们，这个他们是捏造的那么他们这样捏造的目的也是为了自保这个可以理解这个那同学们，这个注解非常的重要就是说 因为我们看原文啊，我们不知道他们是在捏造这个话，对不对？我们怎么知道他是捏造？我们原文他有没有说他捏造，对不对？所以呢，他是捏造啊，这非常重要。那么18到21的注解 ，For the first time 啊，the brothers knowingly subject themselves to Joseph 啊。fulfilling Joseph's first dream, and thus refuting their challenge of his destiny to rule them. 那么 since they had just spoken of themselves as God's slaves, their description of themselves here as Joseph's slaves implicitly equates him with God. 你看到没有？然后呢 ，echoing his father's words to Rachel, Joseph rejects this. Echoing his father's words to Rachel, echoing 这呼应了 Joseph rejects this equation, attributing his dominion over his brothers as resulting from God's plan. Later, readers could have taken this. Later, readers could have taken this as an implicit endorsement of the divine destiny of Joseph's descendants, such as Ephraim, blah blah blah, to rule over the other 那么这个注解大家明白这是自己去可以仔细看一下，我就不多解释了就是说他们呢，就是说愿意臣服于那个Joseph他们几个弟兄，并且他们还愿意，好像他们把那个Joseph当成了上帝了就是上帝的化身。然后呢，Joseph呢就拒绝了这个。Joseph说我不是上帝我没法这个的就是说这个统治你们这不是我自己的意思这是上帝的旨意上帝的旨意好，那么我们来看这个。我们来看好，那么这个呢21段对吧？那么我们好，下面一段。So Joseph remained in Egypt, he and his father's household, and Joseph lived 110 years. Joseph saw Ephraim's children of the third generation, the children of Machir, son of Manasseh, were also born on Joseph's knees. Joseph's knees 那么这一段22到23也没有什么困难的那么我们看一下这个注解22到23。21、23。Machir was an early tribal group, later viewed as a clan within Manasseh that laid claim to Gilead. Born on Joseph's knees and seed 这个我们前面说过的出生在他的膝盖上面这个好像有讲究的这个讲究我也忘了，不好意思我念过圣经，有一些具体的细节的东西细节是怎么样的，我也忘了这同学们请原谅，同学们要知道这个 born on knees 那是什么意思这有什么讲究可以回去参考那个他那个原来的那个地方好，那么我说 born on 那么24那是最后一节了sorry 不好意思sorry 好，这么最后一节Then Joseph said to his brothers, I'm about to die. Joseph 要 die 了。But God will surely come to you and bring you up out of this land to the land that we swore to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob. So Joseph made the Israelites. Made the Israelites swear, saying, When God comes to you, you shall carry up my bones from here. And Joseph died, being 110 years old. He was embalmed and placed in a coffin in Egypt. 那么这个最后一段呢就完了就结束了创世就结束了。那么24、25、26，我们看看24、25、26。不对他这个怎么？稍等一下 好，那么这个24啊，24的注解啊，24的注解是 a reference to God's covenant oath to give the land of Ephraim. It closely resembles similar country in and related material. 这个是，它这里指的是什么啊？24的是指的是什么？指的是那个God's and covenant 啊，就是 God's 条约签订的那个条约啊。那么25这是什么意思？备注啊，注解25的注解 ，This request will be fulfilled in the Exodus, Joshua, one of the links between Genesis and the narrative extending to the end of Joshua. 那么26 The conclusion of Joseph's life closely parallels the conclusion of Joshua's life, and the burial of Joseph's bone in the land just after Joshua's death 啊。那么 and the burial of Joseph's bones in the land of Joshua。好，那么这个呢，就是我们这里的注解啊。那么24、25，24、25，and Joseph died。26，那么最后呢，一个我们要看一下注解，对不对？50的26啊，最后一句啊。最后一句我们看它这个注解，它跟后面的联系，对不对哈？Nearing death, Joseph has urgently communicated two messages to the sons of Israel. This probably means the heads of the tribes, since Joseph is well over 100 years old and was the second youngest of his brothers. The older brothers themselves have most likely passed away by now. First, he reminds them their people are not meant to live in Egypt forever. God will visit them when the time is right and take them to Canaan to give it to them. This is as God promised Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Second, Joseph made them swear to take his remains with them to Canaan to bury him there. 那么这个是两个啊。Now Joseph dies at the age of 110. It is said to be a good long life, though lifespans are rapidly shrinking across the book of Genesis. The very early patriarchs, up through Noah, lived for centuries, but after the flood, those lifespans regularly decrease. Abraham lived to be 175, Isaac 187, and Jacob 147. After Joseph's death, very few people will be said to live beyond 120. Long life relative to those changes will continue to be seen as evidence of God's blessing for right living 啊。那么好，那么我们后面 ，sorry，Joseph and his father Jacob. Joseph and his father Jacob are the only two people in the Old Testament described as being embalmed. Egyptian embalming, often called mummification, 那就是那个像做成木乃伊啊 ，mummification was not always reserved for the highly honored and wealthy in Egyptian society. However, just as is the case today, wealth and status were associated with more extensive preparations. In part, this was due to Egyptian beliefs about transferring one's life through the physical body into the afterlife. Joseph, as second only to Pharaoh, would have easily qualified for the greatest possible care. Mummification was an extensive process that involved removal of the brain and internal organs, insertion of spices, and soaking of the body in special fluids before wrapping the corpse in a linen bandage 啊。那么那个 embalm 就是那个instead of placing the corpse in an ornate tomb or temple, however, it was placed in a coffin 啊，就是棺材里面的。Apparently, this container was kept in the possession of the Israelites in Goshen for the next 400 years until the time of Moses. When the Exodus finally comes, Moses will take Joseph's remains with him for the journey to the promised land 啊。那么好，那么我们呢，就是说那个创世纪Genesis 呢，全部呢讲完了哈。那么我的感觉我们刚才从一开始讲了第一部圣经的第一部，那个旧约的第一部我的感触哎呀，我的感触就是非常的深刻我们学到了很多的上帝的那个智慧人类的智慧这个里面真的是不得了同学们不得了好，那么现在呢，这个东西又不见了，对不对？那么我们就不管了。那么呢，这个呢，就是说，这个视频呢，就讲完了。那么我呢，也不想呢，从这个视频呢，再开始呢讲第二本。那么呢，我们这个视频呢是做的比较短的，15分钟那么这个创世纪就讲完了。那么我们下面的视频呢就开始要做那个叫什么别的了。好像第二部是 Exodus 的，这就出埃及记了好，那么谢谢大家，再见。